Yeah, boy. All right, we're live.
Woohoo! Awesome.
Gang.
Woohoo! We're gonna keep with the woohoos. Come on, keep coming. So,
Hello. There we go.
all right, we're here. We're back. We're good. Are you good? We hope so.
Hello, yeah.
They're obviously gonna be.
They're
fucking
they're
listening.
gonna be
to us.
great.
They're gonna be listening. To
Jeez. All right, cool. What's up? Welcome back to the Long Walk podcast. My name's Dan.
My name is Bill.
Yeah, I mean,
You
Here to
already
talk
know.
about-
You already
yeah.
know. Anyway, today's
Interrupted
topic. Today's topic.
All right, let's go.
Whoa. Okay. Today's topic is gonna
Yeah.
be. It's gonna be when you should stop listening to an artist.
Oh,
So there's gonna be a bit of ethics and shit going on today. So brace yourselves.
bit of controversy.
Bit of heavy hitter. It's very relevant at the moment, so we know we're gonna leech off that. You know. like,
Absolutely.
There's no other way. There's no other way.
It's the rise to the top.
All right, so let's bang it off. Okay, so recently, the reason why this
Yeah.
has kind of come to light is because there have been series of allegations and documentaries sort of put out specifically by two major artists. One, R. Kelly, who kind of fell off into a bit of obscurity a couple of years ago, and Michael Jackson, who obviously died a couple of years ago. So these are all people who, I mean, R. Kelly is still alive and able to defend himself. So
Yeah.
I guess there's some like discrepancy with them. But they're both kind of artists past their prime,
Yeah.
who people once enjoyed, and now they are no longer kind of putting out the same music or whatever, or getting the same support. And yeah, we're just going to talk a little bit about the implications of that.
Yeah.
So Dan, do you think people should stop listening to Michael Jackson because of this documentary?
Oh, that's a very difficult question to answer with a yes or no. But I think it depends on the kind of person, because it's like, I actually spoke to a few people about this, and a lot of them were like, they separate the art from the artists, and they will continue listening to that music despite what this artist may or may not have done.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it depends on what the artist has done. But for me, Michael Jackson, I've found it more difficult to listen to his music.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't really ever listen to it that much. I enjoyed it when it was on, but it wasn't something I'd be like, I'm going to listen to Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
I never really had that kind of thing. But do I think people should stop listening based on what he's allegedly done? Is it confirmed that he's...
I mean, he's been acquitted in a court case.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of, but there's a difference between being acquitted in a court case and being actually not guilty. Like, obviously,
Yeah.
like, I think people realise through the pain on that, they do understand that not everything can be brought to light in court. You need innocent until proven guilty, etc., etc.
Yeah,
You
of
can't
course.
convict someone necessarily unless you have the right evidence. And
Yeah.
especially when you have, like, specifically in this case, you have people previously who have said he was innocent
Yeah, well, that's
come out and
difficult.
say he was guilty. So, boy who cried wolf kind of thing. You don't really know. Like, it just illegitimizes you as a source, and it
does.
doesn't mean that you're lying. It just means that it's hard for people to trust you. That's the crux of it.
Yeah.
I personally, I'm a big one of the separating the art from the artist.
Understandable, yeah.
I really do think that because art can be so important, and art can convey stuff that maybe only that person can do. And, you can sort of take it to, like, great lengths, and you can sort of say, well, what if, a mass shooter put out an album? What if Hitler had put... you can't even
dropped a
access,
sick mixtape.
you can't even access, like, old school... like Nazi orchestral, mixes kind of thing. You could access that if you wanted to. And if you thought the music was legitimately good, for some things, I guess it's more about sort of understanding the circumstances. If you're at a party, and you're going to sort of maybe offend people or upset people by playing such music, I feel like that's more of my moral thing. I just don't think that's probably okay to do that. I think especially if especially recently with all of this stuff coming out, I think it would be in bad taste, especially if you knew people who'd maybe been affected by child molestation, things like that, to do such a to play Michael Jackson at a party, even if you like the music. I think there's a time and a place, and I think when you're in the confines of your own home, when you've got your headphones in, when no one knows what you're listening to, which is quite a lot nowadays, I think there should be freedom.
There's definitely should be freedom for that, but
I think when it comes to personal choice, if I genuinely thought because you could even, because I feel music is quite an emotional thing personally, and
Yeah, it
so
is.
when you listen to, if you were to listen to like literally like Nazi orchestral stuff,
Mhm.
if you were to listen to that, that could strike a genuine sense of fear in you, and that could genuinely be what you want. There are
If you're into that, yeah.
there are albums like that.
Music kinks.
I just kicked.
I'm
that
so
guy.
scared.
Oh,
More.
stay away from the but I do think it is, because it's evocative and things. I think that's why people will go back and listen to maybe music made at a particular moment in time to be reflective, especially stuff when it's politically sort of oriented. And if people want to sort of have that, I think that's perfectly reasonable. Obviously, if people catch you listening to Nazi orchestral stuff, they're gonna think you're a bit weird.
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna say like, there's a lot of music, like you were saying, like you wouldn't put it on like speakers at a party or something, but you'd be comfortable listening to it like through your own headphones, for example, which almost to me implies that there's a sense of not like shame almost for listening to these kind of things.
Yeah, definitely like it's societally frowned upon.
Yeah.
At the point at which you kind of found out. But I feel as soon as you start, I feel like as the public starts to maybe distance themselves from it, then maybe they'll lose interest in the music. But if you still like the music, then I think you should play it.
Oh, yeah.
And also, I think that I feel like this is a bit of a slippery slope, because once you pick on one artist who's done some shady stuff, then you've got to go after them all. And that's impossible.
Like probably most of them, to be honest.
David Bowie a lot of... I personally can't even think of that. There's so many. I'm trying to John Lennon, absolutely. There's so many of these artists that have done things in the past, and just because they've not been convicted or they've done them, maybe unbeknownst to the people, whether or not that actually makes a difference, I don't know. If it means that like people kind of suspected that they did something, suspected that they beat their wives, or later found out that they beat their wives, I don't think that should really taint what the music itself is saying, because the music is
still celebrated.
Yeah, it's like it's a moment in time, and it's like a recorded thing, and it's a piece of art, and I think there is an argument to be made that all art is kind of reflective of something, even if it's just an instant thought or whatever, or a continuous struggle. If it's reflective of something, then I think that is what makes art art. It has to be taken as such. I think once you look at paintings, and you're not gonna I feel like stigmatizing appreciating works that may be unethically made is a slippery slope, because it can hinder art in future. And I think that the human condition as such, I think that is a big factor, because we know we're capable of awful things, and I think as soon as you start shutting that off and not exposing people to it, I think it's going to make people more curious to seek it out. And I think the more awareness, for me personally, I think the better it will be. I don't think that censorship is the way to go at all with this kind of stuff. I think people should maybe be alerted to the fact that Michael Jackson did bad things, but still appreciate how good some of his music was. Some of it was very good.
Let's say Thriller came on somewhere, I think I'd have a hard time not joining him.
Exactly.
Thriller. But sorry, I didn't mean to ruin everyone. Get carried away there. But the counter argument to separating the artist from the art. Let's say you're looking at a painting. All right, so let's take the more physical side of art. I find that kind of art much more appealing if you understand the the background of, like, you understand where that painting came from, what the artist was going through to produce that kind of, how the painting visually represents how he was feeling.
That's everything.
Take the Van Gogh Museum. Like, if you, I think you've been there.
Yeah,
right? We've both been. It's amazing if you ever get a chance to go, but read everything as well, because that makes the art 10 times better. I feel like art only gets noticed nowadays, but it's genuinely looking at actually the process of how people actually get their art noticed and sort of move forward in this sense is because of the people who know about it and who recommend it to more people. That's the only thing that matters. You get art dealers, and their opinion is the only one who counts, and the only reason they're art dealers is because they networked and found other people who are art dealers who had either quite similar art taste or liked the cut of their jib, so to speak. they wanted a piece of that. They wanted him to be able to, and it is very male dominated. It's very male dominated. There are women coming up now, and that should be definitely encouraged, but because historically it's been so male dominated, it still is today.
And so that, you know, so that's a bit of a shame. But you get a lot of these people, and they just want to encourage more and more people to kind of come up and share the same opinion. If somebody gets someone with a vastly different opinion on a piece of art to you, and you've not, you know, been labelled an art critic, it's very difficult to come up. And so when you learn of the context in a piece of art, it makes it that much more poignant.
Exactly.
And so when you look at artists, we talked about last week, maybe when we talked about artists who died, and you wanted to, you know, and there was sort of like this kind of air of, like this sort of, like deity kind of thing, like a divine sort of thing about them. Everyone worships them because they take it at such a young age. So everyone has this sort of rose-tinted, platonic view of them where they are perfect. They're forever young. They never age. They never grow old. They never lose their attractiveness. They're perfect forever, because they're immortalized in their own death.
I guess you could say they don't have time to fall from grace.
No, exactly. They don't have. It's all a Greek tragedy, man. It's all a Greek tragedy. Everyone's got hubris, you know. Yeah. But yeah, that's when you get these kind of artists and things, you just completely idolize them, and so they don't have that same humanity, I guess.
Yeah, I guess, but like that is like the painting thing is why I have difficulty separating the art from the artist in music. Like, I will still listen to X or whatever. I would have still listened to X or whatever after having found out about his cases and abuse and stuff. Yeah. But I wouldn't have been able to listen to it without that in the back of my head, like, am I doing something wrong by supporting this person? Yeah. I definitely think that streaming has introduced like a really good environment for some things, because I think although there are maybe drawbacks you can maybe you could ascertain from that. Maybe, you know, decreased artist revenue, more revenue for the labels, and that's typically how people come up nowadays. Although there are a growing independent number, you do get that. You do get that quite a lot, where you have, you know, artists just exposed to streaming, and I think that's a really good platform to be able to kind of come up, and the kind of pay what you can approach is a really nice way of going about it. You can sort of attract a following, and they will pay for your mixtape if they like you and things like that. Whereas you can listen to an artist, you can listen to Michael Jackson, you can give him a tiny fraction of a penny or a tiny fraction of a pound by streaming, and you don't have that. Doesn't mean you go to his shows. That doesn't mean you go to his merchandise shop. You don't buy the vinyls. You don't buy the cassettes. You don't buy the T-shirt. If you don't buy all those things, you know, it's hard to actually see you directly supporting it. And so I think that does have a good outlet now, so people can expose themselves to the music and enjoy the music for what it is, without necessarily supporting them if they don't agree with that person's actions. You know, take XXXTentacion. I wouldn't buy any of his stuff because I would kind of have a hard time sort of supporting someone going through that endeavor. However, his music is very good, and you know, listening to it even before he exploded after his death, it was still an enjoyable thing to listen to, even though he had mixed reports. And you know, sometimes it's a bit, you know, I guess it's sad how people can be so. I feel like the art is panned. I don't like that. I don't mind the artists themselves being panned, but I just disagree with the art being panned. But I do get it. It's in the back of your mind when you're listening to it. It does affect sometimes the listening experience, and because it's a very emotional thing. And if you've emotionally been through something that maybe that artist has inflicted on someone else, if you
that
can relate,
can be a real barrier for you enjoying their music. If you know they've done something bad and you have that relatability, that's a traumatic experience, so you don't want to have it sort of maybe even brought back to life through the emotion that person's music is putting out. I mean, it's big, man. It's big, deep. But like, that being said, like, you listen to all these artists who have done controversial things, it's still like like I said before, I will listen to their music again, and I will continue listening to it without being like, oh, I shouldn't be listening to this. But I mean, again, another painting example, and quite an extreme one, so apologies. But Hitler, you know, he's painted a lot. I don't know if you've looked at his paintings. They're not like, I mean, I couldn't paint that, fair enough, but they're not fantastic, and there's not much emotion. But it's interesting in still like looking at it and understanding maybe more about that person. I mean, I don't think there's it's again is I don't think there's like a really like a Hitler's estate where the profits are going to.
Yeah.
I don't really think there's that. For me, I just completely am in awe of like when people can create art. It just completely, I do think, it just transcends the way in which we live our lives. We wouldn't have known about that. You know, we wouldn't feel maybe the way we do about Hitler if, you know, we hadn't had like the history books and things like that, hadn't had people's opinions, hadn't had the tragic loss of life and things like that. We wouldn't. And just to be able to get an insight is incredible. I think it's awful, absolutely awful, but it's so incredible to be able to find out about it. I really do think. When do you think your line is crossed? When is like
when would I stop listening to
when
would I be like,
is
no?
What would that, like, not to be too, if you don't want to go as far, but
no,
like just,
I don't.
what is the boundary? What's the line? What is that thing that makes you go, no, I'm not going to turn this person on? Even in the privacy of your own home.
Even in the privacy of my own home. Honestly, I think it could be close to like the like exploitation of children or something like that. Because I would say murder or killing or something, but literally every like I'd say 90% of the hip hop rappers now are like, oh, I've killed this. If you step up, I'll shoot you or something like, like all that kind of stuff.
YNW Melly, even he's like being currently on trial for the double homicide, and he has a song called "Murder on My Mind," and there's a whole thing now about actually using artist lyrics against them in convicting them in cases, which has been done.
I think that's fair. If you say you've done it, then I mean,
it's not.
it's
not a far stretch. You said you did it.
Artistic expression.
I was flexing. But that's the danger, I guess.
Exactly.
Now.
Interested to take 6ix9ine. There's still like he's done a lot of shit, which is why he's now on trial. I think is he on trial or is he in prison?
He's on trial currently, and he's facing a lot of time. However,
that's why he's like delivering info. On other people.
He's kind of snitching, and we're not gonna touch on that. I don't want to really take a stance on snitching or anything. But he's there.
Well, if he's like killed people, done all these things, like been with underage children, is that correct?
I think that he hasn't killed anyone, but I think he did set out a hit on Chief Keef's cousin, paid a lot of money to try and get him killed. Didn't. I think he also has a case from where he had like a girl in the music video and she turned out to be underage. There's a lot of, all of these people are so horrific, and it's sometimes they can and they exhibit that bit of horrificness, and sometimes you have a hard time putting on that music. I wouldn't put on that kind of like shit. I wouldn't put that on.
No, me neither.
But it's not for me to say to someone else that they couldn't for some things. Like if they want to, if that's where they want to spend their time. That's like, I feel like it's just complete artistic expression.
But what I was gonna say was that there's still people who listen to 6ix9ine regardless of these things, and they are diehard. Like I don't know if he has any diehard fans, but he has people who genuinely just like and they enjoy his kind of almost outrageous music.
I'd like
But
he may be imprisoned for a long time, so it's akin to maybe the death of an artist, how he's been locked away and he can't cause any more shenanigans and stuff. He should be able. I feel like he will be let back out. I wonder how he'll sort of go about daily life with a 6ix9ine tattoo on his face.
I don't know. But, employment won't be that easy.
No.
I mean, 6ix9ine tattoos.
So what's your job
everywhere.
experience? Got indicted by the FBI.
That was an experience and a half.
Yeah, definitely. Well, he's a resounding character. Maybe I'd hire him. I'd hire him.
It'd be good for PR,
provided he doesn't shout "scum gang" at all my employees.
But what's the line for me? I think, honestly, I don't know if there's like a definite like line in the sand, so to speak, which you could cross. I think it's a culmination or a combination of certain things. So if Michael Jackson had, in fact, like if that all turns out to be true, I don't know what I'd say or do, but let's say I'm trying to think of a concrete example. What would someone have to do? Or maybe as an artist who I don't listen to anymore because of what they've done. I can't really think of any, but I think you would have to do something very, very bad. Yeah.
People even calling for like the boycott of like Kanye West's music.
Interesting.
Because he said he hasn't done anything.
No.
He's expressed controversial political views.
Yeah.
And so
that can lose you a lot of fans. Like people stop listening because of fans. That might be one that, like, if someone said something like politically, which I completely disagree with, like if it's something completely outrageous. Like way more outrageous than like supporting like all of Trump's policies and stuff like that. If it was completely like alt-right or
Yeah.
maybe even alt left, I'd be like, yeah, no, that's a bit. I don't know. I can't support that.
I think it probably becomes an issue maybe when it infiltrates the music to the point where it's just rhetoric and
Yeah.
it's just like
That's the
propaganda
that's
or
what I mean.
something, and that can
That's
be
what I mean.
propagated by people. And so yeah, I guess when you look at, you look back at like other forms of music that have taken
Yeah.
that kind of stance, and there's a lot of politicized music that's been released over the years, and things calling against the war in Vietnam, calling against the war in Iraq, and things like Bob Dylan, like making politically charged music.
Yeah.
And all of these things are kind of vaguely progressive, so people kind of like sort of look back at them and agree on them. However, it's when someone says something that you don't agree with. It's like, can you still listen to their music? And for Kanye West, absolutely, I can completely ignore.
Yeah.
But from what he said in the past, that's why everyone was kind of shocked, because it was a big turn for him.
Yeah, it was
sort of
completely out of
stay there.
nowhere. And then he did go back on what he said as well.
I don't think, obviously he didn't literally think it was a choice or anything. But still, like when you say something like that,
You have to be careful.
you have to be careful that, because it's a bad thing to say. You
Well,
can't really go out and say.
if you talk about the whole
that.
subject, you have to be careful. I think if you get to the point where you've said something like that, you've royally fucked it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think going back to like the like artists saying things, it's not like just them, like their music is very rarely the thing which will turn people away from their music. It's more what they say in public. So you mentioned the Iraq War. That brings to mind something I read about the Dixie Chicks, who lost a lot of fans in the US because of saying, no, we're not really big fans of the Iraq War, whilst they were on tour here in the UK. Gang.
War never changes. Bad. It's bad.
Yeah.
Fallout for you. Daily fallout.
Oh, Christ. But, yeah. And then the Kanye West thing. I mean, he said a lot of interesting things, to put it lightly. The slavery thing was one, I think was probably, for me, was the worst thing of the things he said in that, like, time period. But then he obviously came out in support of a lot of Trump's things. And I don't know if that's more about the, like, rebelling about... I can't really understand why he would do that.
It's just... it's a bit of an odd thing. I mean, he's like, because he's gone through a lot of, mental illness, and he's, there's a lot of turmoil.
Yeah.
I guess sort of placed at the foot of his door. He feels like responsible for a lot of people, and I think when he's trying to sort of support sort of the culture that birthed him, the culture that brought him up, that same culture, that now hip hop is the most popular genre in the entire music spectrum at the moment, including and having massive effects like over here with grime, that sort of that massive thing, and then sort of to kind of just to betray that very same culture that brought you up and sort of say in some manner that slavery was a choice. That's a very charged statement.
That's not something you can say, really.
You can't say that, really. There's no way you can agree with that, and it's really hard to sympathise with it. I do think that you want to give him the benefit of the doubt as much as you can, because I guess so much of his music previously has been controversial, but for the other kind, like for saying truths and for saying George Bush doesn't care about black people on live air, like being such a great idyllic figure, and then just transitioning from that to being a figure with that is sort of just public at the subject of public outcry.
I can see Kanye West being studied in history classes.
Definitely.
Like I can really see that.
Easy major.
Yeah.
I'm taking that.
That'll be so good. But no, for real, I think that's another interesting discussion there, is like, should music, because in history classes nowadays anyway, we learn about wars and stuff, but maybe we should learn more about like the music and the stuff and the art around those time periods which reflect what was happening. Definitely. You learn about like these different eras and how they were kind of these sort of situations and how they were birthed. Like I was learning about the Baroque era, and that was birthed out of like, I think it's called Lutheranism. So I think it was like a guy called David Luther, I might be getting that wrong, was sort of going against the Catholic Church. Yeah, German fella. Big fan.
Big fan. This is in the 1500s, and they didn't want everybody to convert to Lutheranism. They wanted everyone to stay Catholic, stay true to that. So what they did was, which Lutheranism is basically a form of Protestantism. Yeah. And so what they did was they needed a way to convey what they wanted to the masses. They wanted a way in which they could communicate things, and so they chose because they could write as many books as they want, but that would only convince a small number of intellectuals.
Those who could read.
Yeah, because the majority of people were sort of considered peasants, and they weren't
literate.
able to. They weren't literate.
They
some
were
of them
illiterate.
struggled very much with speaking, even. So it was very hard to convey something to. So they chose the only thing they could, which was to convey it through art and through pictures. And so you can see very sort of weird story sort of elements in pictures. They're more of narrative works to previous sort of maybe symbolic works.
Yeah.
They tried to tell a story. There was a lot going on. People overlapped in the pictures. Things were very sort of grandiose.
Yeah, of course.
And it was, it was fantastic to kind of learn about that and to sort of see how that kind of can relate to maybe today, and how these sort of movements can relate to maybe sort of just what politically people want to convey. And you see Kanye West talking about all of these, weird things previously, and you sort of, really get a resonance for his music, and you think it's fantastic, even if it is outlandish sometimes. I just spoke to Marno.
I mean, I do love his music. Like, it's so different to anything else.
It's just so in line with what he wants to say.
Exactly.
And so when he says something so different, just
it
to
always
what
has
he
soul
wanted
in my,
to say,
it's
just that's it. Just
the delivery is always
people.
so good. But yeah. So what you're saying about the Baroque thing, because that's interesting. I didn't know any of that. That's cool. It's kind of like propaganda.
Yeah,
basically, it's like propaganda of the 1500s.
And that's it. Art can be reflective of literally anything. It could be in order to create art. I mean, for some things, there's definitely an argument to say art isn't reflective of anything. But I feel like it's always maybe kind of birthed out.
I would disagree with that.
Yeah,
I'd
say it's always birthed out of a moment. Like even if you wanted art to be created out of the absence of thought, like you weren't even thinking about it, that's still you're thinking about not thinking about something in advance of doing something.
Yeah.
So it's really hard.
Yeah. Every moment has something leading up to it. Like nothing is truly spontaneous.
Yeah.
Apart from the creation and of particles and things. But that,
my God, where are we going?
Antimatter.
It's just fantastic. I think that when you look at art as just being reflective, it can be so difficult to really get into someone who has a complete message against everything you've done. And so you won't choose. I wouldn't choose to listen to stuff that's racist. I wouldn't choose stuff to listen that's any of this just negativity or just complete outright hatred. That's horrible. However, there's certain music that's designed to evoke that, and I think that can sort of the inner hatred, even if it's not directed towards anything, but people have angst, especially when they're teenagers and stuff. They can be angry towards things. It's normal to be angry, it's normal to be sad, and these pieces of music can sometimes be birthed out of the need to just have an outlet for that. So you can scream about how much you hate everybody, and then that means that when you go about your actual day-to-day life, you love everybody.
Let out the rage.
And so other people who feel that hatred can sort of
when you're listening to music, not
or when you're actually angry.
This is not a free pass to get angry at people.
But yeah, it's like an outlet to get angry that are more maybe more societally accepted, because you can't. You can, but you don't really want to just go out and start spitting on everyone and just being angry.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So it's really nice to have sort of an outlet for that, and even if no one listens to it, even if it's music that you just wanted to create for the purpose of creating it, I think that's okay as well.
Yeah.
Pent up thoughts, pent up anger, pent up hatred even is okay to have an outlet for that. I think it becomes an issue when you start supporting artists that have very skewed political beliefs or very skewed actions, that what they're doing is just horrific, and you just don't want to support that in any way. You can look at it and you can admire it and you can think, wow, okay, that once upon a time that art came into fruition, but you can't. I don't feel that you can support it.
I've never. I think I'm lucky that in my little bubble of music, which I get exposed to, I don't really get any politically I want to say alt-right, but it's not just alt-right. There's all sorts of but we'll say extreme political views. I don't really come across them in music. I don't see them at all personally in music. But if I did come across them, I don't think it'd be something I'd ever want to listen to.
No, you wouldn't want to. Someone filling your head with a bunch of rubbish. It's I guess it's interesting as an experiment, but that's the.
Oh, hello.
Oh my God. Good God, there's a temporary broadcast issue. We're back. but yeah, it's like something that you never want sort of your mind listening to, but as an experiment, maybe it would be interesting to maybe just try for a minute to put yourself in someone's shoes, because that's sometimes necessary, especially even these like barbaric things that you could never see yourself ever wanting to think about, but happen. They did happen, and art has been made to reflect.
I think, I mean, you definitely need to be able to put yourself in the shoes of someone else without getting stuck in them.
Yeah.
But like talking about these things is obviously what leads to understanding, and like of both sides.
Yeah, and sometimes you can't. Sometimes
maybe
maybe
the shoes just don't damn fit.
Just
and that's it. But
at least you try. And
I think art is a really good way to convey what your a message without putting it into words.
Exactly.
Oh, I mean, music would be words, but like, you know what I mean.
Without
having to write an essay. Yeah.
Words without lyrics. Music without lyrics.
Words without lyrics. Hold up.
Oh, hold up. Fantastic. Yeah, it's just a weird and wonderful thing to be able to create art in any facet. You know, it can be entirely reflective or entirely nothing. You know.
Yeah, like quote unquote meaningless, but there's always something.
Yeah, there's always something.
I mean, even if you like, I can't think of any artists like musicians or painters or anything like that per se who like just ramble their thoughts and it gets attention. But YouTubers, that's like a lot of YouTubers just talk.
And us.
Hello, YouTubers, podcasters who just talk about things, that gets attention.
It does.
Like, well, from some of it, we don't get any attention.
We don't get any attention. Yeah.
Come on,
rubbish.
Boys.
Come on, guys. Support us, please.
No, but I'm thinking more about like the channels who will be. Have you heard of Sneeko? This is free PR for Sneeko. You're welcome. He's like the kind of person who will take an issue which is bothering him. Yeah, it'll be thought provoking. A lot of thought provoking kind of content gets a lot of attention now.
Hopefully, this is a bit thought provoking for you, whether or not you stand on any of these particular
exactly.
issues.
If you completely disagree with us, please let us know, because that's so interesting.
If you're more of the mind that's like, all music is music, let's just fucking hear it, man. Let's just fucking hear it. Like, that's interesting to us. And also it's interesting to us if you have any personal boundaries. If you know that you can't listen to Michael Jackson anymore, you just can't. You can't bring yourself to do that.
If it makes you feel sick or something, you just can't.
Yeah, and I think, everybody, I think we're living in an age now where it tends to be, nobody's forcing these things down your ears. You can choose what you want and what you don't want to listen to now. And I think it probably comes under assault if someone is actually walking around with like a boombox, like just putting your ears next to the thing.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like, God, it's like that's a bit extreme. That's a bit extreme.
That's quite something.
But like trying to deafen you with it, and but I do think there are places and things in public where you now have to be careful, because what you're doing is you're curating art for people, especially in clubs and live venues. You're curating that art, and so if you start playing something that is hate-filled and you've got the wrong audience there, you're not going to get support for it.
No, they will turn on you probably.
They will turn on you, and you gotta. I think that's it. You just gotta understand. You gotta empathize. It's all what we're talking about is. I guess it has to kind of go both ways. As a listener, you have to put yourself in the artist's shoes, and you have to at least try, even if you can't fathom the evilness of a dude like Hitler. I think trying to understand brings you to just how bad it actually ended up being. And so, because what I think the risk of not empathizing does is it just we ignore it, so it feels like it goes away, and that hatred never goes away. We see these mass shootings and things happening, quite often now, and so trying to empathize with it can bring you to just how bad it was, and you don't ever do it again.
Are afraid of empathizing out of fear that they might see why and understand why they did it. Like,
sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it literally can never be construed as reasonable, and you know that because you look at it and you see the art, and you see the despicable acts committed. You see people beating their wives. You see people molesting children.
But I think that the fear of possibly feeling that is what keeps people from makes people put up the shutters in inverted commas, and being like blissful ignorance and all that. But I think if you talk to engage with the other side of an argument, I think you maintain your own side, but you have sort of not an empathy. but at least you understand,
Yeah.
and then you can have a discussion,
Or
a
at least you can
meaningful
try,
discussion
yeah.
with that other side of the argument.
Most people are reasonable. Most people aren't
Yeah.
going to do these hate-filled crimes. Most people won't do that. So
Yeah.
most people you only have like a slight misunderstanding with, and so this approach will really help. Some people you can't. Some people you literally can't bridge the gap because people are so twisted, and the human because that I do sort of think which quickly brought you out to free will a sec. But
Yeah,
I feel
that's
some
cool.
people,
No,
some
let's
people
go.
want to reduce like the free will kind of thing. But humans are capable of truly despicable things.
Oh yeah, hands
And
down.
so you have to really think about that to try and it goes both ways. It really goes
Yeah.
both ways. I do genuinely think that as much as you also empathize with the other side, you have to be able to make sure you have like that good rebuttal and things, and so you're not and they have to do the same for you. You can't be on your own as well. But I think it definitely helps when you're the first person reaching out. People often nowadays have newspapers and things that just ratify, and just all they do is just agree with you. You just okay, well I agreed really good
Exactly.
with that. That was really great.
Wow,
I really agreed.
I feel validated.
Yeah, like
basically.
read something that you completely
Exactly. Read something you
disagree
disagree
with. Read something
Expose
that's
yourself
stupid.
To things, yeah.
Read something that's hate-filled and awful.
It will annoy the shit out of you, but
Yeah,
at least
and-
it makes you aware that
Go in with an open mind, and then when you come out of it, think about why they think why you think they did all those things. And
Yeah.
sometimes you won't be able to. Sometimes
No.
you literally there is no room. There is no room for tolerance at anything, and you can't empathize with them even if you try. And some people,
Yeah.
and so I think a lot of people do instantly because when they hear about something, they just know that that's going to happen. So they just put up the shot and then
Yeah, they're like, I'm not going to agree with
I'm
this.
not. I'm not. Yeah, there's no way.
It's
you
like
can
read
agree
the
with
headlines, like no, and that's
this.
it.
It's
If you actually
disgusting,
read
yeah.
the story, yeah.
They know immediately that it's awful, it's horrific. They don't
Mhm.
want anything to do with it, and so that stops people from trying out these things. And I think the best way to offer a rebuttal for these ideas
Yeah.
is to try to understand them, and then because then you.
I mean, the best way to dismantle an idea would be to understand it, wouldn't
Yeah.
it? So
Yeah, exactly. You want to be able to offer a rebuttal that will actually interest people. When you go into an argument, I feel people often don't understand it. You want to be proved wrong. You want to have your opinion invalidated.
You're
if
not.
you
You
can.
don't go into that trying to change the other person's opinion.
Yeah.
You want to have your opinion,
And,
sort of.
and people always view
Yeah.
arguments as shouting
I
matches.
mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, look at it as here's a metaphor. If you were to knock down a building or something, if like legally, it's a demolition. You wouldn't just drive into it with a flipping crane. You would look at where you would want to place certain, like maybe explosives if you're using C4. You don't use C4 for demolitions, but you would look at like the weak points and understand the structure of the building to bring it down. The same way, if you have an argument which you disagree with, you need to understand it, and then you can bring it down.
Even if
Or
you want that
if you
building
understand-
to stay standing.
Yeah. Even if it's your own building.
Yeah, even if it's a fucking orphanage. Like you
Oh, Christ.
you want that shit to stay up. But like you gotta understand why someone or how someone would take that down.
You need
And
to be able to defend your understanding of that building.
It's a fantastic metaphor. Well done.
Thank you. I'm
Fucking
so
hell.
proud.
I love that metaphor so much.
Metaphor.
How'd you like the latest podcast? It was okay, but I agreed the fuck out of it.
It was alright, but metaphor. Jeez. No, but sorry, I'm completely stopping that trail of thought right there. I don't mean to. But I need to ask you, what's your like line in the sand? At what point would you stop listening to an artist? Because you've said that you separate the art from the artist, but is there really nothing anyone could do?
Well, yeah, exactly. I said before, sort of like I did want to, looking at, stupid thing, Hitler's paintings or something,
Yeah.
just to try and understand maybe where he's coming from. Obviously, you can't. Obviously, it's impossible. But it's just like trying. Are we dead on the camera?
Yeah,
by the way?
the
Oh,
cameras
okay.
ran out of battery.
Okay,
so, it's
so you're gonna hear like a little technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Like we'll draw one up. We'll draw one up.
That's a joke.
You're gonna so even when you can't, you look back at like paintings and things,
Yeah.
but for like music, because I think music's a very emotional thing for me, so I wouldn't choose to listen to any of the alt-right, maybe racially motivated, or no, not racially motivated, rather racially discriminatory music.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't want to listen to any of you want to listen to any of the stuff that like really upsets you, probably. But that's only because I view my music as an emotional experience whereby I kind of am seeking enjoyment for one thing or another.
Yeah.
Even if I want to be even if I'm in an angry mood and I want to outlet for that, you know, maybe listening to Spiderland by Slint, which if you haven't listened to, go listen to. It's ridiculous. You want to listen to some hard, disgusting music because you know you're feeling that way. Then that maybe makes you happy afterwards because you're like, yeah, that's fantastic. Or happy during. That's the whole point. You want that emotional experience. Or if you want to listen to The Bends by Radiohead, you just want to like, you know, scream out like, yeah, come on, baby's got the bends.
Love it.
And so, you know, sometimes that's when you wanna do that. And there's like, I guess there's vast different ways to do it. And you know, you just have to be sure that you never support an artist maybe that doesn't agree in line with your views. I think, to be honest, if I ever start putting out music, what I would probably do is you do the pay what you can. The music is free to everybody who wants it, and support me as you wish. I feel a lot of people use money mining out of their fans, and that's not really the best way to go about it. I think, you know, you want to make the art for the sake of the art, you know, that for it being reflective. And the line in the sand for me, I mean,
it's difficult, but maybe do have one. Sorry,
I wouldn't go out and buy a Michael Jackson CD now.
No, me neither.
But I would not stop listening to Billie Jean. I think that's kind of that's my thing. I wouldn't support an artist who does something that might be, you know, criminally charged. I think politically, if it's so far astray from where I'm at, then it would be genuinely hard for me to listen to the music. But for some things, you could love some music, but their political beliefs don't infiltrate it. So that's really and you wouldn't even know if they didn't open their mouths. That's also another thing, ignorance, because maybe deliberate ignorance, because someone does have those alt-right views, but makes great music to maybe a largely progressive left audience. So
that'd be really interesting.
So they can't say anything.
I think on the side of the artist, that's quite smart. For example, like if I had political views, I do have political views, but like if I had views which might be unpopular or go against what is popular at that time, I wouldn't want to put that in my art.
No.
Instead, I would, you know, I'd keep that for myself and talk about other issues in society.
Or maybe you'd make the art and just keep it locked up, you know?
Yeah, you know.
Even just having, maybe
so you've expressed yourself, but not...
Yeah, you're not like flouncing.
Yeah, you're not internalizing your...
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like people sort of say, like, you can't control what I listen to. It's sort of like, well, we don't care. I think Twitter makes everybody think that they've got like a special voice or something when they just don't.
Yeah.
Like that everyone's part of like 1 in 7 billion. Like nobody cares what you're listening like or why you're listening to that artist, apart from other people who don't like to listen to that artist, and then you just have at each other, you know, for the sake of having at each other. And it's so stupid. It's like, you know, if that artist does something for you, then you listen to him, and that's about all it is. And people can disagree, but that's their problem. Genuinely, I don't think that you shouldn't try and push your views on other people, and that's one of the I guess an argument against making politically charged music. You know, you don't want people to even be talking about Trump in their music. You don't even want to hear that sometimes. Maybe that's not your thing. But at the same time, you do want that freedom of creation, so that if you do want to talk about Trump, if you do want to disagree with him, you can. There is that outlet to do such a thing. And there is that outlet to speak out against horrific crimes and things. That is perfectly fine. And I think, it's completely a spectrum thing, you know. Everything's a spectrum. I think this is a spectrum too. There's no way, you can't clear cut define what's good and bad. There's no line in the sand. There's just personal.
There's a gradient. There's a gradient in the sand, and at some point something happens.
There's
and
a
you're
gradient
like,
in the sand. It's like oh man, it's bringing me back to geography A level. Longshore drift. Beach
point.
Profiles. That's the gradient in the sand.
Oh no!
But I think this has been going on for quite a while.
Yeah, we've been going well. I mean, I think it's been an interesting discussion again.
I think very thought-provoking. Well done, us.
I'm so proud of us.
I fucking love some of your metaphors. They're fantastic.
I'm proud. I love what you were saying, especially when we went into the Baroque, and I was like, "Ooh, yes."
Ooh. I don't really. To be honest, I kind of went off a bit of a tangent. I didn't really bring it back.
Organic conversation is cool. That's
where it was.
I mean, my metaphor went off in a complete random building. Sorry, this is about.
It's about building.
Yeah, sorry, this is welcome to the building podcast. Yes. I love foundations.
Love a good foundation, you know.
Brick and mortar.
Okay, now we're talking about brick and mortar. We really.
Yeah, I think it's time. We've reached the end.
We've reached peak procrastination. So, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much for listening.
if you've been listening. Let us know. We've got an Instagram. If you've been listening. So you might have fucking... As soon as we just
maybe put us
started
on
talking
mute
about,
and you've just tuned back in. Like, they still talk. Jesus Christ.
Fucking hell.
It's like...
When will they stop talking? You know, yeah, we are victim of the same human condition. We love hearing ourselves talk. That's what we are. So just chill out, man. Everyone's a hypocrite. Everyone's a hypocrite. So thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for listening.
If you've been listening.
I love that.
And
That's the outro.
And now
Yeah.
we're gonna see you next week, hopefully, or whenever this next one comes out.
Yeah.
We're a bit irregular.
Any quick
Bit
plugs?
irregular,
What have we got? Instagram, long walk
Instagram.
with a 0 for the O.
That's
'Cause
it.
we're
That's
just
the
that
main
damn
one.
cool.
Dan's good on that. Go follow that.
I mean,
right
we've got,
fucking now.
new section on there is recommended reads, because we're both, I think, pretty avid readers.
Well, you're a better reader than me.
I don't know if I'm a better reader. You
Well,
read
as in
some.
you're a more prolific reader. As of now.
For now, we'll go with for now.
Things can change. Things can change.
What else have we got? We got the Instagram, obviously. Website www.thelongwalk, not the long walk.
Is it?
The.
I thought it's The Long Walk.
It is thelongwalk.live.
So you go there and you can click. We've got an In Vogue section, which is like all of the stuff that's like modern, that's happening right now, contemporary stuff that we're writing about, and then Out of Vogue, which is stuff that we're pulling up back from the history archives, whatever we just feel like talking about, that kind of stuff.
Got a post on there by Bill just now.
Oh, I do.
It's
Go
lovely, very good
go
read.
out.
I recommend it
Go
thoroughly.
read it. I recommend a great album, and you'll find out what that album is when you go to the website. Well, hey, shameless plug.
James, go to the website. And then of course the podcast section on there. So if you want to listen on the website, you can do that.
Wow, we're so 20.
We're with it.
21st century.
Of course,
Yeah.
YouTube channel exists as well if you want to see our faces. But I mean,
camera
this you
has
won't see our
actually
faces. The camera is dead, so you won't
camera's
see
dead.
us for this bit. But
You-
there is about. You will have seen our faces for at
You'll
least
see
half
like
of
a
this.
technical difficulties thing. We'll draw that one up. We'll draw
Yeah,
that
don't
one
worry.
up for you. And yeah, join us next week when we'll talk about mushrooms. That genuinely might happen. Be prepared. Be prepared.
You never know.
You never know. Bye.
Bye.